you know, but I ran 20 kilometres to get here. It's like sub-marathon pace. Just
no big easy.
Deal. No big deal.
You get your heart rate up.
Didn't even get a sweat up.
There's a bit of thistle in that bristle. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular podcast I am super pumped for. I have been quietly, excitedly, patiently waiting to catch up with this man, a very dear friend and an inspiration to me in my life. Where do I start?
I'm looking for the person you're talking about.
Right, Jay. When I was trying to establish a bit of a runway and an intro for this man, I didn't have enough paper in my office to write everything down, but I'm going to have a fair crack at it. This beautiful individual is a father, he is a partner, he is an integral part of our community here at JMT. The interesting thing about this man here is that his previous career prior to the company he is the director of, he spent majority of his time in the shadows doing high-level stuff, discreetly, covertly, and a lot of people don't know much about Nick. So I thought we'd take this opportunity to just shine a little bit of a light and bring some of the things that he's done into the light so it can better help our community, Sunshine Coast, even the greater community of Queensland, the globe, and things like that. But Nick, if I could describe Nick in a saying or in a few words, he is, internally very confident and externally extremely humble. One of the most humble men I've ever met. He is the creative director of Shot Imagery, videography, video production. Do you like that? Hey, Brown Lives Matter.
This isn't my filming.
This is not Nick's filming. However, he has adjusted the lighting on my phone and actually propped it up on something, and adjusted the door as well for the light and a couple other sound things. But it's not his filming. He's filmed in Uganda. Went after some witch doctors. Made a doco around child sacrifice. He is the director of Wairua Spirit. He's been to Antarctica, the Arctic. His filming takes him on a global scale with himself and his team. He was an officer, a highly decorated special forces officer.
Yep.
He was a major. Just amazing career. And I wanted to talk to Nick and get his thoughts on a rather broad topic, and that topic is leadership. I've got my own personal thoughts about leadership, and I was really interested to get an educated insight into leadership. Again, we're looking for that covert individual. So I wanted to get Nick's thoughts on leadership, topics of nature versus nurture. Are leaders made? Are they born? Is it a position? Is it a station? Are you a leader or the leader? Does team trump leadership? There's a saying, I think it's, now I'm trying to sound like I'm really clever. Is it Anon? Anon says, I've written it down here, leadership is like driving. Everybody thinks they're really good at it until they hit the ice. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the myth, the legend, Nick Andrews, dear friend and absolute legend. I love this man like my brother. I can't begin to go on, but I'd love to get Nick's thoughts. In considering the current climate, I think personally leadership comes and goes. It sort of ebbs and flows. It recedes as quickly as it arrives sometimes. And what my own thought on the outcome from the coronavirus and the pandemic is some of us were thrust into that position, whether in our relationships, our families, our community, our businesses. I would love to get your thoughts as a leader amongst leaders. What's your thoughts on leadership, bro?
Look, I thank you for that ridiculous runway. Most of that makes me incredibly uncomfortable, but anyway. So my experience with leadership has been quite vast in terms of actual training, and I think the military is one of the best leadership schools on earth because the stakes are so high. It's not you make a mistake and a business might fold. It's not you make a mistake and someone's reputation might be damaged. You make a mistake and someone will die. And it's not might die, it's will die. And we've seen that time and time again. So the stakes are really high, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years with thousands of years of doctrine behind it. So what an incredible place to learn it. There's one of the things you said in there, I'll come to nature versus nurture in a minute, but there's a definition we use, leadership versus management in the military, and they're very different. Management we tend to refer as processes and day-to-day stuff that needs to happen, direction that needs to occur. It's just process that needs to happen, and a manager isn't necessarily a good leader.
Yeah.
And conversely, a good leader isn't necessarily a good manager either, because management's kind of the processes and things that need to happen, but leadership, and very broad definition we used, and there's a doctrinal version, which I was always crap at remembering the exact doctrine. I was good at remembering the concept and applying the concept. But essentially, leadership is about motivation, inspiration, and convincing people to buy into what you're talking about.
Yes.
So that at the end of, when you ask them to do something, you've asked them to do something that they've bought into and they have belief in.
Yeah.
And they believe we're all part of this team. So leadership is really about inspiring people to do stuff and buying into it and making it part of themselves, as opposed to management, which could be direction that put your timesheet in at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good leadership. Conversely, the leadership version of that might be to actually get the team together and say, guys, we need timesheets in by 4 o'clock. The reason we need the timesheets in by 4 o'clock is because Jan there needs to process them by 5 p.m. And if you send them in late, Jan gets to go home late because she has to get them done so the banking goes in so that everyone's pay comes through. See how they're different? Management just said, get it done. Leadership took people on a journey, gave them buy-in, and explained what the impact to the team was of them not playing. And now they're in, whether they like it or not, because timesheets are flat out boring, they're now actually inspired about why they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they're going to have more buy-in and be more creative.
Wow. So hence the inspiration, the motivation, things like that, showing people, leading them, guiding. Yeah.
Explaining the process is part of it as well. Like, leadership is really a doctrinal thing. There's a key component. I'm going to check my notes here. There's one here that basically is to keep people informed and provide direction. It's actually one of the doctrinal things. So when you tell them why, and you tell them what the impact is and what happens if they don't do it, they've actually got a better understanding. Now you're leading them rather than directing them,
telling them,
explaining the path and the journey and what the implications are of choosing left and right, rather than just saying, I want you to go left.
Yeah. And we probably all experienced people like that in our past that are just literally barking orders, and you're kind of like, you're going to get some resistance.
Yep. And people are probably thinking, hang on, I've seen military movies. You guys just yell at everyone all the time. Do this, do that. Yeah. The funny thing is that there's actually a place for that as well, because there's times in that environment where you don't have time to think and you don't have time to explain. You just need someone to do.
Yeah.
But the important thing is that you can't have that direction without leadership initially.
Yes.
Because there'll be no trust.
Yes.
So if I just spent my entire lifetime yelling at people to do things, when it really came to the crunch, I'd get pushback because people wouldn't understand. But if we'd spend a lot of time building our leadership and our team and things up front, then when I do bark an order, because I don't want you to step in front of that car, or I need you to go over here, people do it because they trust that you've got the right intentions, or submit that form by form, walk away. But I've got a history of explaining why. They will just do and then ask why later. Because they trust that we're all working for the greater good.
It's all congruent. They've got the belief.
That's it.
Believe in you, believe in the leader,
believe in the team,
believe in the
organisation, all that sort of stuff.
Makes total sense. It's a really interesting way of explaining it. And so your thoughts, mate, like with the pandemic and everything that happened here on the Sunshine Coast, like did many of your principles and values and things that you learnt in the military and in the special operations world, did that hold you in good stead to lead your be part in your family unit, in your business, in the community on the Sunshine Coast? Was there anything that transferred and sort of helped you through that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think leadership is most powerful when the circumstances are abnormal. So people notice it more. The pandemic is obviously pretty abnormal. I mean, 100 years ago they had it. It's been 100 years since, so we're in an unusual time.
Yeah.
My belief is that when the situation gets uncomfortable, it's about communication. Communication is a tenet of leadership, essentially. It's like explaining what's going on. So it's talking to your team. Yeah. My business changed wildly in a 2-week window. It literally just flipped, and we were doing things we weren't normally doing. A lot of the work we had that was consistent was gone, but we were communicating openly with the team about what was happening and what our plans were. And as part of that, like, there was full buy-in. And I think when the world turns to shit,
go vegan.
Yeah, go vegan.
Vegan.
No, the world is shit because you go.
I'm confused. Eat me.
No.
Eat me. Eat me. Eat me.
When the world gets flipped upside down, it's easy to go into a mindset of this is broken, everything's bad, I can't fix this. Whereas if you take the mindset the other way of things have changed, what can I do? How can I adapt? What can I change to the environment? Because you control your space, not everything out there. So you can either be woe is me of what's happened out there and just sit there and watch the world steamroll over you as the situation changes, or you can say the situation has changed, I need to change too.
Yeah.
So I feel that it was outside of the leadership bubble as part of a whole thing. The military set me up for contingency planning. So it's like, this isn't what we planned. Cool, new plan.
Yeah.
Go.
Sort of, adapt, move. Yeah, because that was a really startling thing to watch, is how we all reacted to the adversity, to the stress of what happened, and how it was so different across the board. And I often wonder, you know, when we learn these things in the military, and I can only imagine at your level, the teachings and the knowledge and the education that you were given, you know, how did that transfer to everything? It's just, it was really curious. I was thinking, when we think about moving forward, and I know we're not out of the woodwork by any means, and we've still, you know, got to pivot and move, and it's turbulent and these things are going on. Is there anything, so thinking about just Mary on the street, it's always Mary, and Mary's hanging out on the street.
Good lady Mary.
Yeah, God bless her. What's some knowledge bombs, some wisdom you could perhaps, like, just thinking of just the everyday person, they're going to work, family unit, they're doing their thing, they're feeling the stress and the adversity from the current environment, whilst we're moving on to the other side, what's some wisdom you could give those people about, you know, how to manage ourselves the best we can, how to adapt, how to overcome? And then after that, I want to ask you, I love this story. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll start with that one.
So the one I use, I'll give a bit of context to this. I think everyone's level of stress is based on their experiences. So if a really bad day for you is you drop your coffee, and a really good day is you get your coffee, you've got a really small window in there of life experience. If a really bad day for you is watching a mate die, and a really good day is celebrating someone's wedding, you've got a really huge spans there.
Wow.
So because of now I feel privileged and tortured to have experienced the things I have, because it gives me that huge context. And I get caught up in rubbish as well. So there are days where I'm literally like, this is crap, everything's going wrong, blah, blah, blah. I get caught up in my own bullshit. I'm not immune to that. But what I do is, when I catch myself doing that, I do basically, what am I grateful for? And it's really simple. These are the things. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head, a home that's safe. I have a family who are healthy and well. I will eat tonight, and I will wake up tomorrow to give this another crack. It's that simple. Like, so I would say to anyone who's literally thinks the world is crushing them, be grateful for where we live in Australia and the simple things. Do you have your home? Are you safe? Even if the thing that's driving you is that you're being evicted from your home, do you have somewhere you can go? Do you have a car that you can sleep in? Do you have a family member who can take you in? Will you eat tonight? And even if you don't eat tonight, will you be okay till tomorrow when you can eat? Like, just keep breaking it down into little things that mean I can survive till tomorrow. Because if you survive to tomorrow, you can fight the problem again. But if you give up, the problem's won. So I know that sounds really easy for me to say all that stuff, but
I think it's brilliant.
no matter who you are, anywhere on the street, if you're struggling, go back to the basics. Food, shelter, family, I'm good. If I've got those things, I will be okay.
Yeah.
We live in a country where the social structure is set up to protect people pretty well. There's healthcare, there's pensions, there's homelessness, there's payouts for people who are out of work.
Yeah.
It may not be great, but we're going to be really careful that you don't die.
Yeah.
And you can't fight when you're dead. But
Yeah.
if you're alive, you can give it another crack.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I had a mic, if I could afford a mic, small business owner struggling in a pandemic. Boo! Just so you know, Nick had no idea of the questions that I'm asking. So this is just wisdom 101. I love it, man. That is such a powerful message. Unreal. That's so good. And just think about that even in your own world. You know, how's everything looking? Taking that advice from Nick, bringing things down, simplifying things. Have I got this? Have I got that? Have I got this? Just awesome. It's like what's that? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's pretty much
if you
the
look
base
up
of that.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you look at the things that a human needs to function, and you have those, you'll be good to fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that foundational level. If you weren't aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Google that. It's some principles.
Yeah, some principles, the psychology things, and basically you can't attain a higher level of thinking until you've got those basics.
Yeah.
So when you don't have those basics, it's difficult to solve complex problems and think outside of your own world. You become a very insular person rather than being able to influence the world outside you. But basically in Australia, very few people in this country fall outside of those basics.
Shout out Australia. Love this country. Biggie ups. The next question I had, and I loved it. So I've been privy enough to hang out with Nick a fair bit on a few projects. So we obviously shoot the breeze, have some great conversations, quality conversations. And one of them I loved was a story, and I won't tell the story because I won't articulate it as well because I wasn't fucking there for a start. But the story was, it rang in my ears. No one is coming. No one is coming. And I think about that even in this context. It's almost like I don't know if it's a metaphor or an example, but no one is coming. You've got to back yourself. And Nick, would you share that story briefly with the people watching this?
So I'm a little ashamed to share this story because it demonstrates my complete lack of professional skill that got us into this. In 2010, we were in Afghanistan and we were doing a clearance of a large valley system with a heavy insurgent network. And we put about 130 commandos and US Special Forces in. I was attached to a US Special Forces element. Now the weather it was summer in Afghanistan, so the temperature was above 30 degrees centigrade. We were there for overnight. We were expecting a big fight. So there's a theory in defense which is dumb, but we say pack light, freeze at night. And the reason you pack light is because you can carry more ammunition, you can move faster, so you suffer being cold at night on the trade-off of being able to fight. Now we were all like, yep, cool, 30 during the day, the night times are getting down to 20, even if we're sweaty, we'll be good. All good. We landed in the valley, it was dead quiet. There wasn't a single person interested in fighting us, probably because we landed 130 heavy hitters into the valley on helicopters all down the valley, and they just went, this is a bad idea, I want to live here tomorrow. So no one fought us. The rules had changed in Afghanistan, so we weren't allowed to be in compounds for the evenings. So we hunkered down on a hill, and just as the sun was setting, a huge storm that was completely unexpected blew into the valley, and the temperature went from 30 centigrade to just above freezing, and pouring rain. Now we were sitting up on a hill fully exposed, and as it got dark, it was miserable. I've never been as cold in my life, and I've spent 6 weeks on operations in the snow direct, and I've never been as cold as I was this night. I was soaked to the core. Now we were sitting up on this hill, and my radio operator who was with me just sort of curled up into a ball and started to, go in and out of consciousness. Like he was really struggling, and I was in the hurt locker as well. He was hugging his radio to try and get some heat out of it because it was a few degrees warmer than we were. And I remember saying to him, mate, you cannot go to sleep. No one is coming to get us tonight. If you don't look after you, you will die on this mountain, and there's nothing we can do. And like that rang true. That it was I've been shot at, I've had rockets fired at me, I've had all this random stuff, and that was the one time where I was actually like, holy crap, I might die on the side of this mountain tonight. And I genuinely wasn't like that in combat. It was like this moment, sitting in my freezing cold clothes, I was like, I might die tonight. And I remember thinking, because the weather was so bad, the evacuation helicopters couldn't come to pick us up. So we were literally on our own. And I remember thinking, we've got to do this ourselves. Rest of the story is irrelevant. We managed to find some shelter and move, and we did some smart things that were able to look after us. But the funny thing was, 2 years later, I was back in Afghanistan again. Same team, essentially about 80% of us had been on that mission. And we had a bunch of new guys with us, and we're heading out in the middle of summer. And everyone's got rain jackets and cold weather jackets strapped to their packs.
Yeah.
And the new guys are like, what are you guys doing? It's like 35 degrees centigrade out there. And all the old guys look at them and go, just put a rain jacket, cold weather jacket on. Just do it, all right? I'm not even going to explain to you.
Management, leadership.
Yeah, but the funny thing there is, like, sometimes you've just got to, when it all goes to hell in a handbag, you've got to look after you, because at the end of the day, if you survive to the next day, you can fight again. So sometimes you just got to draw a whole heap of inner strength and just look after you to
wow, man. Gee. You're a true life warrior, bro. Honestly, that is just
bad life choices. Didn't take a rain jacket, didn't take a cold weather jacket. Poor planning. Like, literally the fundamentals I got wrong. But hey, lesson learned, I never did it again.
Oh.
And that's another thing. Never repeat a mistake you've already made.
Yeah.
Yep.
Knowledge bombs, wisdom bombs. Reminds me of that book from Andy McNabb, that Bravo 20, which came out 20 years ago or something. They had a similar thing. They all got caught out in the cold. Same thing, that was hot as anything during the day in Afghanistan, and then freezing at night. Mate, so good. No one is coming, team. No one is coming.
Except here, we'll all support you. Just stay in touch.
The social, construct of Australia will look after you. God bless JobKeeper. Rightio, to bring the mood down a little bit, not down, lighten the mood is what I would say. A couple of quick questions.
Yep.
What was the last gift you received? Besides that photo I sent you?
Oh, yeah. I don't think we're talking about that. Look, I'd say, the most important gift is actually my tiny evil clone, Madeline. Like, she's just a...
Daughter?
Yep, my daughter. She is a perfect combination of myself and Danielle, and like, that is the best gift. But because she's a mirror, she shows me what's good in both of us, and she shows me what's bad in both of us. Yeah. And anything she does wrong, what I perceive to be wrong, is actually a reflection of one of our behaviours. Now, I'd like to say it's all Danielle, but sometimes I'm like, that is so frustrating. Where does she learn that? And then I go, hang on, that's me. So she's the greatest gift, because she actually is a perfect reflection of everything that is good and everything that is bad in both of us. And that's a pretty powerful mirror to have standing in front of you, to be able to adapt your own behaviours for the future. Yeah.
Youth, bloody children. Oh, mate, well answered. I've got to come up with better questions. He's too good. Ladies and gentlemen, he's too good. Okay, here we go. If you were an animal, what type of animal would you be, and why?
Oh.
You like that?
Yeah.
Like that? Yeah. Compare yourself to an animal. What would it be, and why? Can I answer this one?
Go on.
No.
Answer it for me. What do you think I am?
No, you can't do that. What were we saying? Like a salmon. A salmon line.
Yeah.
Not really happy about that choice I made.
Yeah. I think this is a really hard one. I would say it's got to be something. I'd probably choose like one of the monkeys, because they literally, they adapt, they use tools, they find new ways to solve problems. Crows are incredibly smart, they think. And I would say I'm not a particularly strong person. Like, I'm not super fit, contrary to the world I came from. I was never the fittest person in special forces, not by a long shot. But you don't need to be. You need to be somewhere in the middle as a leader there, and you need to be able to think. And you need to be able to solve the problems faster than other people can. So, for want of a better term, I think monkeys are pretty adaptable and like creative. So I'm going to go with monkey.
go with a visual on that, Tim. Just let your mind just drift off.
I'm not that hairy though.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Right, one more quick one.
Yep.
You're having a dinner party at your house. You can invite 3 people, and they can be anyone from the past, current times, anybody. 3 people that you could have at a dinner party, other than your immediate family, and of course myself.
Well, I wouldn't bother inviting you because you just never turn up.
Jesus!
It's just your diary management is the worst I've ever seen. So,
I must admit,
so Jamie's not one of the 3.
That's Navy for you.
Some of you might have seen Admiral Bill McRaven as a person. You've probably watched his speech where he talks about the first thing you got to make your bed.
Yeah.
Like, now I've worked for that guy. He is an incredibly smart guy. Literally wrote the book on soft leadership and soft operations, so special operations forces, how you do it. What an incredible guy. I'd put him as one of the people in the room because he's just like literally mind blown.
I bought his book.
Yeah.
Little book.
Yeah. Well, it teaches you how to be special operations, how to use your force to achieve an overmatch. So basically, you can put like 10 people in and fight 100 and win.
Yeah.
But it's all to do with relative superiority. So it's about planning. It's about getting in and out quickly. So just a really creative guy, incredible leader. I'd definitely put him in the room. I think I'd probably throw like Lance Armstrong in there because I'd be keen to just like talk to that guy about being known as being so great, but knowing you were cheating the whole time.
Oh, I know.
Like, it just puzzles me on how you can. So I wouldn't put him there as an aspirational leader. I'd put him there as someone that I was just interested in how you could do what you did and sleep at night.
Yeah.
Because to me, trust is the foundation of so much. And if you can lie to yourself, and maybe he was lying to himself and maybe he was lying to people. So I'd be curious to talk to him about what that actually meant.
Did you ever see that Oprah flogged him? Did you ever see that? Because it was like in her opening thing, man, she did not hold back. And there were big billboards on the motorways in America with him like basically saying like, if you take drugs, you're a loser. Like if you're doping, I can't remember the slogan. Yeah. And that was it. And he was like on radio and TV, like, these people fucking drugging and doping, doing it the whole time.
Yeah. I don't understand. How do you get to that point? So for me, it's like a conversation about moral boundaries and when you cross them. And I think it's really important because when you push people a little bit past what makes them uncomfortable becomes comfortable. And then what becomes uncomfortable again becomes comfortable. And that can go good or bad. So you can push yourself to lift more, to run faster, to take more stress in your life, and you can keep being better. Or you can break the rules to the left, and then you can steal a lollipop, and then you steal a bag of chips, and then eventually then you're stealing an Audi. So I think that pushing boundaries goes in both directions. So to understand the psychology or the mindset of someone who can push themselves so far for positive, but so far for negative at the same time would be a really interesting conversation for all of us to have, to understand how easy it is to be better and how easy it is to be worse. Yeah.
I've listened to a lot of podcasts with him in it, from Joe Rogan to Rich Roll, and none of them really touch on that. It's more sort of the karmic effect of what he's done. Seemed to be the narrative, like, talking about him and his kids going through airports and that, and people in the States just fucking flogging him. Like absolutely want to hang him out to dry, and unfortunately now his kids are experiencing going through school and stuff, pretty full on. Wow, interesting. Who else, bro?
Number three. So I have a soldier by the name of Tim Pereira. Look his name up. He was wounded on operations with us. A hatch on an armoured fighting vehicle fell and broke his neck up super high. This guy was a CrossFit athlete, incredibly fit, super smart. He had a specialist skill, which I can't talk about, but he was just an amazing brain, and his neck was severed. And he lost fully quadriplegic. And basically he was caught in the back of the vehicle by the medic, which was just incredibly good luck. And the other person in the vehicle with him was the JTAC, who was able to call in air support to come pick him up. And he he's someone I haven't stayed in touch with as much as I'd like to, but I'd put him in there because after he was injured, he went into hospital, he's done some rehab, he's got a little bit of movement in one hand, and he is the most positive person I have ever met. He's had everything taken away from him. He literally can't feel below the middle of his neck. And when he was in hospital dealing with other people who had spinal injuries, he was designing electronics to allow them to control their TVs with their voice. And he was getting these things made for them to make their lives better, even though he had the same life as them. To me, that is like the most inspirational person there is on earth, the person who has had everything we take for granted taken away from them, and they still have time to care for other people outside of themselves. And he lives down in Canberra now, and I don't get to see him or talk to him as much as I would like to, and some of that's my fault. I feel guilty about that, but he would be a guy I'd put in there just to spend some time with him again.
Wow, that's incredible, mate. What an amazing man. Far out.
Like,
they're out there, eh?
giant brain, massive heart, had heaps of stuff taken away from him and still out looking after other people.
Oh. And if you can't take inspiration from that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure what you can get rid of your podcasts and your memes and your social platforms. That's a true magnificent man.
People are real inspiration and motivation, not things we see on Instagram and stuff. If that gets you going, that's cool. But I'd challenge people to go out and find the people in the community who are actually real people who are sources of information. I love great quotes and things, that's super powerful, but there are people out there changing the world, and if you meet some of them and help them on their journey, you'll get so much value from that. If looking at a pretty girl in sports gear to get you to the gym motivates you, or seeing someone's muscles motivates you to get to the gym, maybe just think about the guys who have lost almost everything and they get up every day. That's real motivation.
Yeah.
Right there.
Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, give a massive round of applause for this magnificent man, and I can't thank you enough, mate. And I honestly feel privileged that you've taken time out of your Saturday and from your family to come and hang out with me for a little bit. You're a true inspiration in my life, bro. Honestly, I mean that sincerely. It's been great having a friendship with you and your family. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for giving your time and just giving us a little bit of insight into your world, or your previous world and your world to this day. And it's awesome. I think we're all better off for knowing you, man. Thank you, my brother. Love you.
Thanks, man.
Woo! Fuck, so good.